great way for a delighted John Cleland to start the new season. Second on the grid, first in the race. That'll do nicely. Another 18 left, and will Rydell bog down in the Volvo again? We'll soon know. And the answer is no.
We need to work harder. It's not good enough. 2 engines and 2 races. Not acceptable. The team must push harder. Today, my radar engines must stop blown up. I'm trying to build a championship.
John Cleland is sandwiched between the 2 BMWs and going for first, says John Cleland. Oh, Matt sideways, championship leader in big trouble. Sideways, he gets it back again. It's Plato and Matt Neal side by side.
I'm going to rip your face off. You know what that? I'm going to rip your Hey! What are we doing here? Is this stock car racing or is this motorsport? The man's an animal.
And Colin Turkington is going to become the champion for the 3rd time in his career with 1 race to stand.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another very special episode of Reverse Grid. And I go slightly, I not to use a cliche, I'm going to change tracks a little bit for this one, and welcome a guest who a lot of BTCC fans will already know. If they don't know your face, they'll know your work for sure. But one of the most unique artists I think I've ever seen, really. Ian Cook, better known as PopBangColour. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
How you doing? Yeah, good. Thanks for having me along. Yeah.
No, it's
what an intro.
There we go. I like to. Well, I don't need to big everyone up. I think all the guests I have on there's a reason why I want to bring people on that I do. So, you know, and I, being quite a creative person myself, I've always loved art and everything. I'm not great at it myself these days, but I must admit the first time I saw your work, obviously ahead of the recent Thruxton meet, which we'll come on to, I had to learn more really, and I got to briefly meet you there and obviously see some of your work up close. And the more I've looked at it, I was like, no, I've got to have you on. I've got to sort of delve into what it is you do. And so, yeah, really, thanks for giving up your time to come and talk to us.
No problem. I've got a cup of tea, got crumpets.
There you go. We were just saying that's cool. That's the most British setup to what, as we're recording about 5 o'clock on a weekday afternoon. So the best place to start really obviously is at the beginning. And I always say I'm not going to launch into song, even though that me saying that, you know, kind of lends itself to a certain song. Your artwork, I think, rather than going firstly asking you how did it begin, just explain for anyone out there who doesn't know everything you do, or maybe not so quite familiar as others. Just explain the kind of art that you do, because it's fantastic, I will say.
So I do, for 16 years, I've predominantly did one process, which was I paint artworks with radio control cars. So generally live at events, so Autosport, British Touring Car Meets, Goodwood, Silverstone events. You'd see me on the floor painting big artworks with radio control cars, and luckily, and over the years I've done it, and I've also worked for a number of brands and manufacturers and different folk to kind of do different PR launches, events. If there's some a dealership opening and they want something for people to point a camera at it and be like, oh, that's interesting. then that's what I've done is the paint with cars artworks, and I still do them. You'll see some painting today. I've been back in the studio.
I was going to say fresh off the print, as it were.
So always know my wife knows if I've had a productive day. She's like, oh, I can see you've done some work today. If you come back with clean hands, you're like, nah.
I've just been. I've just been.
Got all those creative, kind of can't the word right now. So paint with cars, started that in 2007, 8. So prior to like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like any of the social media platform, we just about had Facebook. And that was a project and what kind of kick-started that is that I ended up painting a portrait of Lewis Hamilton the size of a three-story building.
Yeah.
It turned into Tower Bridge. Lewis then won his first world championship with McLaren.
Right. I got to say, just to hold it right there, that's not the kind of thing that most people will drop into their sort of their early works or where they got their launch pad. You know, it's doing
and
doing
it's
something
surreal,
like that.
it is still surreal now. Like, you know, how many years?
I will say, obvious question. Then, how did that one come about?
So I started painting cars end of 2000. Yes, end of 2007. I was still teaching. I was an art teacher. But I'd also, I've got a fine art degree and I've got a BTEC National Illustration. So, and I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to be a full-time artist. That was what I wanted to do when I was a kid at school. Yeah. I was really good at art. And that's the only thing I was really, really good at. Like I passed maths and English. I literally, when I opened my GCSEs, I literally got C for everything, apart from art was A star. So I did textiles, arts, graphics, everything else. I opened up. I was like, oh, thank goodness I passed. I don't have to retake any. I don't know how that happened. I literally, because I was so like, my goal was the art stuff, but my parents being teachers, they were like, you need to do the other stuff to pass, and thankfully I did. And then I did, without getting kind of like, the thing about this is that it's almost like there's now like kind of two parts of the story, because you've kind of got the paint with car stuff up until COVID, and then post COVID you've got continuous car, which is what I've now been doing for kind of 3 years. But anyway, I'll throw it back. So what happened is, so I was teaching 2007, but I was also really determined to be a full-time artist. So I was teaching because, one, I had access to the studios. I was able to get into materials. I learned a huge amount from being a teacher as well. Yeah, when you've got 30 kids, you've got to pretty much entertain for 3 hours. You've got to be on your best, almost best blag game. Like you've got to like really kind of make sure they are hanging on your words. Like you are the authority. You're the authority in that room, and you've got to make sure they're listening. If you lose that room, you've lost that room. Like there is no chance you're getting that back.
No.
So for me, I learned a lot from being a teacher. So I started on 3 hours, I went to 6 hours, 9 hours, I ended up being pretty much a full-time teacher. But when I wasn't teaching, I wasn't being paid. So I was paid okay for an hourly rate. But actually, when it came to the times, it meant that I didn't have paid holiday, I didn't have paid annual leave. So I had to
find something.
I was like, find something else to earn money, or do something, or whatever. But it meant I was pretty flexible as well, bar all the marking that I had to do. But
people always think that the teaching side is easy enough, and you get all this holiday. And I'm not one of those. No, I know a few teachers. I know. So I was using the studio. So I started to use the studios when I wasn't teaching, and in holiday time I was in there, and I was able to go, right, well, actually, how can I utilize my time? Painting with cars started because I was given a radio control car by a then girlfriend, and she said to me, "Don't take down the studio and don't get paint on it." And that's genuinely big red button. Yeah, don't do something.
Don't do that. Why not? I want to do that. And so I had a studio which was built by my granddad down the end of my parents' garden. So when I finished uni, my granddad could see I was very frustrated with how I got my degree, got first class honours, but I wasn't painting, I wasn't creating, I wasn't doing anything. So not anything, but I just couldn't. I just didn't have the space. And so he was like, "Well, what do you need to do to be able to create and do something?" I said, "Well, the garage down my parents' garden, I reckon we extend it, have some daylight into it, watertight it, make that into a studio." And much to my parents not knowing is that within he'd ordered materials, and soon enough he was stripping the roof off and extending the garage to make it into a studio.
Wow.
Which is really he did it was a massive help. At least I wasn't going out to commercially make money from it. It was just I wanted to try stuff. It was just a place I could escape to, living back at home with your parents. I was like, right, at least I've got somewhere to escape to and just enjoy.
What an endorsement by your own family as well.
Oh, my granddad was like a massive, he was a huge influence in my life. Whenever he drove me to my university interview, he helped me out when he could, and he was just a very supportive figurehead. As are my parents, but when you're a teenager, you kind of, your hero is always going to be if you have thankfully I had all my grandparents, so he was and we spent a lot of summers together, and because my parents were both teachers, when they wanted 2 weeks off for their summer holidays, they used to dump me and my brother over at my grandparents, and so built the studio, and I started to play around in there, work out, and as I was asked not to do, I took a car down there, started to work out how to draw, paint, create with a car, and attach sharp pens to the back of it. Tried to work out actually how do the wheels spread the paint or spread it, and I then worked out that I needed a bigger space. So I then started to do that in the college. When I was working in the college studios, because they were much bigger than mine, in big rolls of paper called Fabriano paper. Okay. And so I was like, right, cool, I'll try that. And then a friend of mine who at that time was working at the Wolverhampton Art Gallery. She graduated from the same university, and she'd taken on a curatorial role at Wolverhampton. So and she said, "Oh, do you want to be part of a group show and show some work or do something in the gallery?" So I was like, "Yeah, all right, we'll give that a go." And then we started to experiment with painting with cut, what could you create with radiator control cars, or what could you do? So we did this thing where we went from one gallery space to another in Wolverhampton, rolling tires and cars going through, not with paint, but just kind of this movement idea. And then somebody got in touch with her and said, "Look, we're trying to do Britain in Bloom, and we want," at that point there was a massive crash in the markets, and all the shops had shut, so we had loads of vacant shop units in Wolverhampton. So they're like, "Oh, do you want to take over a shop unit and create in the shop unit for a week?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll give that a go." So I then was able to so I had these big pieces of paper in this vacant shop, and I then started to paint with the cars and work out actually what to do. And what was weird is that people were watching me just create stuff. Yeah, and it wasn't an image. It was just kind of color wheels and spreading paint, and whatever. So sometimes it's one thing leads to another. It's never. Sometimes it's not like the instant. Oh, it's that. It's actually. Oh, it's the person. And you'll find out in this industry. You'll find. I'm sure you know already. It's all interconnected. Everybody kind of knows each other somehow, or come across, or being how events work and whatever. I think from outsiders think the automotive industry is this big thing, and it is. But actually, when you come to events and
it doesn't take much for word to spread, really, and
No.
you know, particularly if you've got something like you've got, and you're trying to get that out there and your name out there. I mean, Christ alive, it's you know, looking at what you've done has spread. You know, yeah, it's BTCC that brought me to you, but looking into what you've done, I mean, it's just like it's all over it.
Yeah.
You know,
So without kind of getting bogged down in that, so I had this vacant shop unit. I was painting. People were watching. And I thought, oh, people are watching. That's really interesting. I'm going to contact all the local news agencies and go,
okay,
and like go, oh, look, people are watching. This is interesting. You want to be interested because they're interested. They're interested in what I'm doing. You want to, I rang up all the local news. Yeah, at that point, it was newspapers. So you didn't have socials, so you literally had like an editor, a number, and you go, hiya, and I'm doing this. And you had you had to get them hooked in within like that 15 seconds of I'm doing this. I'm painting with ready control cars. People are interested. Do you want to come down and photograph or film me? And sometimes you get nah. I'm not.
I was going to say, what was their reaction? You know,
sometimes you get not really. No, that's not really news, though, is it? But then it must have been a really slow news week because then I rang up the local newspaper. And they went, yeah, all right. Yeah, cool. Are you there all day? Yeah, I'm here all day. And then I was like, oh, we'll get newspapers down. The TV will be interested as well, won't they? The TV are going to be interested in this.
Yeah.
And then I got ITV News. Yeah, I got ITV News down.
Wow.
Local news on a Friday. At that point, everybody was watching TVs on Friday. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
So it was just I've always been quite a kind of like, oh, well, if you don't ask, you don't get it. Like I did that.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Literally.
Yeah.
The worst thing they can say is no.
Yeah.
If you get there, you go, okay, that's fine. I respect that. Yeah. So we got I got the newspapers and the TV down that week into Wolverhampton. And that then led to at that point it was the Express and Star, which were owned by the same group as like Mirror Group, like Trinity Mirror. So that then led to being in the Metro newspaper, which then led it going down to London on the train because people took it was like
awesome.
It was a news story in the Metro newspaper, which then I then got London journalists going, hiya, you paint with radio control cars. I'm like, how have you? What is
I was on the train.
I was like, what? I don't understand. But because I was still teaching, so my phone was ringing whilst I was teaching. I'd answer it on my lunch break. Go, hello, you rang? And they're like, oh yeah, we want to chat about this. I'm like, okay.
I think it's got to be what you were doing. I mean, I must do it. You're the only one I've heard of. Whether there are more that have taken up since that, but doing what you do with remote control cars, you're the only one I know of. So if they were to hear what you were doing, surely, I mean, it's different. It's something.
I am the only one in the world who does it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just how it is. Like, I mean, either there's nobody else. Probably there's nobody else stupid enough to do it.
I think you've set the trend far too high now. I think
far too high, yeah, something like that. But I don't know. It's perfect. I think it's a perfect sort of being from the Midlands, having a connection to Birmingham and the city that is known for cars and all that. So there's like there's when you're talking to the press and stuff, there's all these hooks they want to go. So what is the tell how can we sell this into what makes this a are you from Solihull? Oh right, that's a Solihull local story. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not just Solihull. I'm like, yeah, but that's how we sell it in.
Exactly.
That's how the hook is. You're from this area, and then like now working in Coventry, it's like, oh, you're from Cov. I'm like, I'm not really from Cov, but okay, if it helps the story,
that's
I'll go with it.
Be from anywhere.
But like but when somebody from Cov go, Ian, you're not from Cov, like what's this?
The masses don't need to know that.
Yeah, so it's so it then became this thing of just kind of going, right, okay, that's interesting. That little story led to this, which then led to, I think I then did a solo show in Solihull at a gallery in there, which I then re-showed my university work, and I did some of the RC stuff as well.
Okay.
And so the first image I did was Puzzy Bear for Children in Need.
Okay, cool.
So No Pressure, quite a well-known image.
Quite no, iconic.
So I did that live on Breakfast Radio, which again weird of like a visual thing on radio.
Yeah.
But it worked. And then yes, with the Solihull Art Gallery, which then was quite nice because it kind of they kind of like it kind of riles the people who like to see pretty pictures in frames. They were like, oh, this will never be art, and that to the point that they actually like complaints letter into the local paper. I was like, brilliant. Like I've now triggered somebody enough.
That's great
for them to be that annoyed about they're like, this will never be art, and how dare he call it art? And I'm like, brilliant. This is now going like that's
getting traction, isn't it? Notoriety.
With my like kind of fine art training, you always want that perfect kind of like. Some people are going to hate it, some people are going to love it, and they're both going to talk about it. So
there we go.
Yeah, and there's a bit now like with social media, like, I don't like that, I'll share it. Oh, I do like that, I'll share it. Like it's
but these people can talk to each other about it as well, and they can argue the hell.
Yeah. And you can just be like, okay, I'm just going to watch this now, see how it goes. So I did the Solihull show again, still teaching, and then I got then I started to do events. So events started kind of event season April, May the following year, 2008. So I then went to the British Motor Museum, did a few events there, started doing painting the cars, on their indoor. I didn't have an outdoor setup, so it was like indoors. I paint with radio control cars. Did a Land Rover event, which was the first event, like proper event for the a launch event there. That led into like a supercar Sunday event. So I then started to do all the kind of they had a mini event. So I did first car I painted was a Land Rover Ranger event, and it was mini supercar Sunday. So and all these events started. And then I started to go through the events calendar and going, oh, where else can I go to? Like, because I didn't really know, so I was like, go and get Octane magazine or whatever it was, or have a look online to see what events there were. And then there was Bewley, so I ended up going down to Bewley to the National Car Museum. So that's where I created the Silk Cut Jaguar down there for their auto jumble.
Oh, okay.
And then it just started to kind of just trickle, kind of go, okay. And then I saw this event called Goodwood, and I was like, I'd never been, so I didn't know what it was. So I just saw it as an event that was all listed. So I just rang them up and said, look, and at that point, I'd painted a portrait of Lord Montague whilst I was down at Bewley.
Okay, yeah.
So the late Lord Montague, but he, and I had a picture of me with his artwork with him next to it, and that artwork is still down at Bewley.
I would have seen that. I was there a couple of months ago.
It's kind of around. It's in the staff area. You've got to go.
Oh, okay, fair
to
enough.
the offices to go see it. It's a massive portrait, big portrait of Lord of the late Lord Montague. So I did this portrait, and then I sent that to Goodwood and said, "Look, I paint portrait. I can do portrait as well." And they said, "Right, okay. Well, how much space do you need?" And I said, "Like, an indoor space. Artwork's 2.5 meters, so a relatively big space." And I went, "Okay, and how much do you charge?" And I went,
"This is new."
But what? What? Oh, you want to pay me to be there? Oh, because I'd literally no idea what a corporate event, and I had no idea. So, so I went, "Oh yeah, well this man." And camping and whatever. So I arrived at Goodwood completely like didn't realise how big and it's 2008, so it's not as big as it is now. But it was still pretty big.
Is this a revival or
no? It was Festival
Speed. Okay,
it was So and I went, "Ooh, this," and I arrived and I was like, and I remember ringing my dad going, I need help, like I'd set up on my own. I was like, oh my, I've completely missed like what this is like. And so I think yeah, because it's just a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It wasn't a Thursday. So I'd set up, done the Friday, and I was like, Dad, I need you need to get down now, like ASAP, because I need help because it's so busy.
Red flag.
And what happened is basically, where I'd set up that year looked out onto the cricket pitch. And at that point, there wasn't a huge amount on the cricket pitch. It was quite bare still.
Yeah.
And once a day, the dragsters that were situated opposite me fired up. Mm-hmm. So people poured over to that side of the cricket pitch to see the dragsters, and hear them. And then they walked pretty much straight into my marquee, because they were like, they found themselves on this bit of the Goodwood they don't normally go to.
Yeah.
And they're like,
oh. And
then there's an artist painting with radio control cars, which is equally a bit weird. And then following that, the Tuesday after, I got a phone call from MC Saatchi, which is the advertising agency.
Yeah.
So Morris and Charles Saatchi. So I knew Charles Saatchi. Yeah, I know the name Charles Saatchi because he was obviously big in the 90s for young British artists and stuff. So I was like, Charles Saatchi? Okay. And they were like, how big can you paint? And like, how long does it take? And I said, well, how big do you want? And they were like, well, we've got this idea of revealing an artwork on Tower Bridge on the same weekend that Lewis, and then they're going to announce Lewis as brand ambassador for Reebok.
Okay.
As an athlete. So hence why I wasn't in race gear. It was in a Reebok sweater and whatever. And I said, well, okay. And I generally, like, you remember, like, kind of, there's wind-up shows in the late 80s. I generally thought
Beatles about and stuff. I
generally thought it was a wind-up. I generally thought, this is a wind-up. Like, I'm going to go with it, but this is a wind-up. So I went down and had a meeting. I was shown around a shop by torchlight. I was like, okay, this is weird.
It's like, not helping your suspicion.
Oh, yeah, no, honestly, I think if something like now, I'd approach it completely. Yeah, I'd want contracts in. I'd want stand up. I'd want, I'd want things like absolutely in stone of date. But I was just like, okay, and then I was like, oh, how big do you want it? And they were like, how big can you paint? I said, I don't know, 12 meters by 8 meters. And that 12's like my lucky number. So I was like, oh, 12, 12 and 8. That sounds about right. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of got home and said, how big is like 12 meters? And he was like, why? Like, well, I just kind of said how big I could paint. And he was like, yeah, that's the size of a 3-story building in. I went, oh, that's big.
That's pretty big.
Big then.
Yeah.
So we kind of, luckily that project went really, like, it was an amazing project. It was, so many things went wrong.
Right. As you'd expect. But
oh yeah, it was brilliant. Like, but because I didn't know anything else. Like I hadn't experienced it.
Yeah.
So, and it was the first kind of corporate gig I've ever done. So I was a little bit unfazed by it. I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be all right. And it's not until like I was painting in a vacant shop unit on the Piccadilly Circus, like over 20,000 people came through the doors to watch it being painted. Wow. It was on CNN, BBC, global news chat. Like globally, I had friends ringing me from European countries going, "Why are you on our TV?" I'm like, I don't know. But there was just so like I say, like the build up to it and to actually do it and create. Because I no point I never saw the image until it was being revealed. Like,
right, okay,
how we drew it and how we got it all planned out. Like, until you were hanging it, you could actually make. If you got it looking a bit falling over, it would look really weird. But yeah, that was for the time, it was Reebok's most successful advertising campaign they had done.
What a story! Really, I love the way that has gone through your journey, how you told that, and your journey to that point. I mean,
and then the following week, I was back to teaching. I was and then I had all the kids in my who were teaching going, "Sir, you were in the newspaper, weren't you?" I was like, "Yeah."
Had it sunk in by then? Like the sheer magnitude of it. You mentioned being on the news and in the papers and that. I mean, how do you digest something like that?
I still think it was very much like I was so new to it. Like I didn't know this world existed.
Yeah.
So if you don't know something exists, then you just
go with it.
Go, oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
But I mean, a lot of my training, like, had I not have had my fine art training, I had when I was at uni, like I went to a really good uni. We worked hard. We pushed each other. So I think a lot of that training where I learned to take on criticism, to take the good with the bad, like, and just learn and go, right, well, if I can't do that, well, I'll do it this way. If I can't do that, I'll do this. And I think I've just always been a bit like that. Like, if I can't do one thing, I'll do something else.
Yeah, fair enough.
Or I'll work away at how to make it happen, or whatever, within reason and whatever. So then I was, and prior to that, I'd been in touch with Blue Peter. So
okay, yes, I like this. You have your Blue Peter badge, which I think is ultra
so cool. I prior to this, I'd be in touch and say, look, I pick ready control cars, and you want me on the show, because at that point Blue Peter was still a thing. It was
of course,
on the telly. It was you could tune in live and watch Blue Peter. And I was like, so I just wrote a message, look, I rang through to a producer somewhere, and then I ran this one game. When you do something kind of newsworthy or big, let us know. And then literally, I think the Wednesday after, when I got back back to teaching the following week, I then got a phone call from Blue Peter going, so we saw the piece. You definitely deserve a badge. Lewis is going to get his golden badge. So we'd like you to come in and do some painting in the studio, and I was like, oh, right, now you want me? Oh, right, okay then, right, I see.
On the same show with Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, so he was at the studio. I guess they did a pre-link to him. I was in the studio, and But I mean when they talk about surreal stuff, like I was in the Blue Peter studio. I was in with the dogs and I was like, that was probably more surreal than the actual project I did. I was like, what? And then you go, oh my God, this is TV.
Yeah.
Like, this is how TV is made. And, I think my dressing room was like previously, it was either Saturdays or it was previously occupied by a band of that era. And I was like, this is really weird.
And this is just another step on from, again, that journey that took you to Lewis Hamilton. Now, how did it change then for you from that moment on?
I think I just became like, I was like, oh, right, okay. Well, one, I need to do more events, and there's lots of events I could do. Two, I want to do more of this filmy stuff. It's fun, and I want to, I like the idea of it.
Yeah, cool.
And and then there was obviously more PR stuff. So then generally each year I'd be approached to do because I was the guy who painted ready control cars.
Yeah.
But I could also work for a brand, and I'll paint with their products and do it on site or do it as an event or whatever. And in my head I was like, well, if I can manage to do that giant piece within 6 months of me really starting, then I can. I'm just going to go with it.
World's your oyster, absolutely.
I'm just going to go with it. So, 2009, I was then asked to go and create at the first Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So I was being flown out with all the kind of the top people who do like keepy uppies, and yeah, everybody had a Guinness World Record. Like everybody was like, and I was just like, I'm just here painting cars. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Doesn't because it's what you do. It doesn't seem that remarkable, I suppose, when you look at other people. But to other people who don't do anything like you do, they must look at you and think, "Whoa." You know, do you ever get a sense of that?
Yeah, I guess so. I get like it's a bit like normally I'd be in the studio, like if I was in the studio, you'd see like it's a bit on the studio. Like I see my studio every day, and it's just normal because it's like it's my studio. Whereas when somebody walks in, they go, "Oh my god! Like, what is this place?" like what do you do? Like, so it just became like, right, okay, I'll do. Yeah, so 2009 was F1. 2010, I think that was when I did Comma oils, and I painted with real cars at Brands Hatch. So we painted an image with each of the vehicles that raced at MSV circuits.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. So I was painting with a real car, which is another kind of like, okay, that's
different.
Interesting. That's another avenue. 2011, I think, was America. I went out to America twice, out Vegas twice.
Okay.
I think that was 2011. I kind of forget which dates. It might have been a little bit late. It might have been a bit later. So then started to become other. Yeah, I've done Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
America was cool. It was it was super like going out, and they're like literally like, how did you even get here? I was like, plane.
Well, quite, yeah.
One of those guys. You got to remember, a lot of Americans don't even leave the country. Yeah,
no, that's very true. Actually,
to leave a state is like you're sitting in the same state and it's 3 hours. So they don't really leave the country, and to get on a plane, you don't need a passport. You just need a driving license generally. So it's really been interesting to traveling with it, but also doing the circuits in the UK. I love going to the touring car or F1 or whatever, because I get a buzz off events, seeing people, meeting people, interacting. People who see it online go, "Oh my god, like I've seen this on XYZ."
I think the thing that I love about what you do is you can watch it while it's happening. Something like So I do writing in that, or I did do writing. It would be really boring for someone to come and watch me type on a laptop. But while you're working on something, people can look at it, and they can.
With the paintings over a day, you can generally what I try and do is get a painting done in a day, so that when you start the day, it's a blank canvas. When you finish, I've got it may not be in my eyes finished, but it is there is
something
a canvas
that
has been done, and and I still very much love doing the paintings. I don't do as many as I post COVID. I don't do as many prior to COVID. I used to do 6. So there's about 650 paintings that have been done. But obviously now I do more drawings. So the drawings and the paintings, are two separate entities, but I do them both.
Which nicely brings me on, actually. So let's you mentioned COVID being the main transition between paint with cars and the continuous cars. So just tell us how this concept came about, and tell us a little bit more about how you do it.
So basically, obviously when it was really weird, like where I'm based over at Fargo, like so as things kept on getting shut down, like as initially it was like, oh, there's this thing out in when it came to Italy, oh, it's in Italy, and I literally did events up until the Sunday before,
right?
Because I was at Type 2 Detectives painting, and the previous week I was at another event, but there was like murmurings, all this, but it's not going to come. It's not arrive. It's fine. So it's kind of it's in Europe.
We all ignored it until it's on our doorstep, really.
But at the same time, where I'm based, the barbers got shut down, the hairdressers got shut down, The gym got shut down.
Wow.
The brewery got shut down. All the food outlets then got shut down. So it soon became like, okay, well, I'm the only one who's left
Yeah.
at the moment. Like, I was still kind of doing my retired cars, and I was still.
Yeah.
I was like, well, look, I paint on my own in the studio, or create on my own in the studio, so I'm not. But the biggest problem is that the site shares the toilet, so the amenities are all shared between 40 businesses.
Right.
And also I live, at that time I was living, still in Coventry, but it's a travelable, it's a car ride distance. So it got to a point that it was like, right, and then so I was in the studio on I think it must have been the Tuesday, and then it was like, oh, there's going to be an announcement from Boris to go. Yeah, and then that was like, right, well, we've all got to work from home and not travel, and be at home. And I was like, oh, well, that's gonna not like my diary. My bookings vanished.
Yeah.
Overnight. So all of a sudden I was like, well, I still need to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
And my money is made on either people buy the artwork at the event or my time to create the artwork. So I was like, oh well, that's both of those gone. And funnily enough, you can't paint 2.5 meter sized artwork in a 2-bed flat.
Who'd have known? Who'd have known?
Yeah. So very quickly I was like, right, okay. So what we did, literally as soon as that was announced, like we went down the studio, me and my wife, and we filled both of our cars with as much stuff as possible. Like, I was just like, right, pens, paper, whatever. Gonna just fill the cars, get it back to the house. So I spent the next day just tidying up, because nobody knew what was going on. Like, we were all a little bit like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
But I was like, right, well, let's sort out the spare room. I can work, so we can have that as a work room. I'll clear the garage, so potentially I could work at the garage. But paintings weren't really going to work. Like, they just weren't. There just wasn't the space to do it. So I was like, so me and my wife got married in 2019, and luckily our honeymoon was out to Japan for 3 weeks in the end of 2019.
Yeah.
And we both took sketchbooks with us. Well, actually, Taz took her sketchbook, and I got a bit jealous that she had a sketchbook. So I was like,
she had to buy
one. I was like, no, you can't paint. And if you're painting, if you're drawing, I'm going to draw too, because I'm the artist.
Yeah.
So
Probably you on a pedestal.
So so it was more like, well, I'll we'll do some drawings, and each day we drew somewhere. Like, it wasn't car art; it was, I don't know, beer and food and whatever. We just drew something each day. But we ended, really, I'd love to go back. But I thought, well, I'm only going to Japan once, and in Japan there's lots of car manufacturers, lots.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's Nissan and Mazda and Mitsubishi, and they've all got their own headquarters. They've all got their own kind of place you can go see some of the cars.
Yeah.
So we went to Subaru, to Mitaka, and in Mitaka, we ended up going to Japan because I was tagged in a post on Instagram where my artwork is in the Mitaka gallery. So the home of Subaru STI, the home of Subaru Technica International, that's STI. In Mitaka, there's an artwork of mine which I had sent to America. I sent to America. It was in Japan. Okay. So
don't figure that one out. But
why is it in Japan? I wanted to go see it. So we ended up going to the Subaru museum. I ended up doing a one-line drawing of the 22B in there, and I did GTR as well. Right. And I was like, oh, this is a continuous line. But continuous line drawing is something that you learn at uni. It's just a process. Yeah. It's just a process. Yeah. But I quite enjoy it. Trying to draw something without taking the pedal.
I was going to say, did you? Is that something you intended to do when you started doing that, or was it just simply something you just found?
One of the things we did was a car, but I did like I said, we drew beer and temples and all sorts in one single line. It's just
okay, that's cool.
When I posted those images online, after being on honeymoon, people are like, "Oh, that's quite good, that drawing." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks." So by the Friday, so in that same sketch pad, I think it was the same one, but it was. I then decided, right, the new Land Rover Defender had just been launched and revealed that press launch that week. So I thought, I'll draw a new Defender. So I did new Defender. It's quite boxy, kind of like Land Rovers are quite and the first artwork I did was a Land Rover as well. So I thought there's quite a nice link between the two. And then I owned a Morgan three-wheeler, so I did a Morgan, and then I just started to go through like iconic cars. Yeah, so it was I did a classic Mustang. I did then I think by that time, like 3 or 4 drawings in, after posting them online, people then said, "Oh, well, you can take requests," and I went, "Yeah, can do, yeah." And because nobody actually knew how long, what was going to go on or how long it was going to go on for, it was like, right, I'll just keep on drawing.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 drawings soon became 20, 30, which soon became 30 to 50, which soon became 100. Because I just kept on drawing. Like I just kept on drawing and taking requests, and then people were buying them, and I was like, oh, brilliant.
There you go.
Okay.
Just what you needed. Yeah.
So, and then my wife went, "Oh, you should do a book of these." And I went, "Should I?" So then we did a crowdfunder. We achieved the crowdfunder. The book's coming out very soon.
So
it just became some not happy accidents. A bit like with the painting. Like I didn't go out to commercially go, right, I want to sell paintings.
No,
I was creating something which then somebody went, "I want to buy that." Yeah.
Is that how art works in general? You know, kind of someone does something and then someone happens to.
I think it can do. It just, I prefer that type of natural. Yeah, it's the same when I started doing. I sampled some mugs and people were like, "Oh, can I have my kind of mug?" I didn't go, "Oh, I'm going to try and make lots of mugs and sell them." It was more like trying different things to go right. Will it sell? And then, but what you're not trained to as an artist is you're not trained as a salesman. You're trained to create stuff. So that but I've learned from 15 years of paintings. I've learned what works, what doesn't work. So it just became a very different element of the business. Is it was create a small drawing at a price that most people can afford.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that small drawing, you can scan it, photograph it, and then you can create the other things.
Yeah.
Mugs, pin badges, tees, all that stuff was possible. And initially I saw it as a stopgap. I saw it as when I can go back to the studio, I'll just crack on with painting. But actually, I was like, no, you don't want to just stop. You can have them both. You can have because not everybody can afford the painting. Most people can afford the drawing. So and stuff like the Thruxton program, they for a couple of years they'd been going, "Oh, we'd like you to do the program," but to commission a painting, Thruxton don't have the budget for that. Like they just don't.
No.
Whereas with the drawings, I can go actually because I can sell each individual drawing, and then because it's got a solid line, it works just really well. It's bold. It's and I can once I've created one, like some of the things can then be taken onto the next program or the next thing. So it just works.
That's really cool.
Really well.
That's cool. Is it Thruxton themselves that approached you for those then? Is it?
Yeah, so I worked with Thruxton for 3-4 years.
Okay.
So I've always been down there them for painting, doing touring car.
Yeah.
And I've done a few other bits and pieces with them. So So yeah, no, it was just a matter of getting the right opportunity to do it, because they approached British Touring Car about it and go, yeah, this is what we're going to try, and they got the okay. So it's not until I arrived on the press day when they did the Thruxton press day. I arrived, and then they were like, right, do you want to do the program? And I went, what, like now? Like, do you want to start drawing now?
Yeah.
And the cars hadn't quite finished doing it. They hadn't got the press yet. Okay. They hadn't got the press. I said, I need photos of the cars that are on track now.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got, I think it must be Jacob who shot the photos. So
right. Okay, cool.
As soon as I got the photos, I was able to then start the first drawings and decide which cars, because you want the first program, we wanted to have a variety of the cars with new livery. So you had the Napa car, you had obviously Turks, it had the BTCC car. Yeah, so you had certain ones in there, and then that went really well. Like the first program got a really great reaction, which is all down to the fans' reaction to it, really. Yeah, more than anything. It was great. It was lovely to have people coming up. Oh, you signed my program for me, and whatever. So the first one went well, and then they went like, oh, can you do BSB next? And I was like, okay, cool. I don't really do bikes, but we'll give it a go.
Why not? Give it a go.
And then that led to then doing because they're quite in quick succession. So the first one, there was a bit of lead time. Yeah. Then the second and third, like the BSB and then Thruxton, were back to back pretty much. Yeah. And I also had events in between, so I had to create some of the stuff at events. Yeah. Because otherwise there wouldn't be any time for it. Yeah. So
I got to say, even for us, I mean, it was our family's first trip together to BTCC. And it's a great memento, to be fair, to come away with that. And I actually even yours was the only autograph I got that weekend. So
okay. Yeah, no, I love, and the second program was really nice because it was I said, because we wanted the second one to look different than the first one. So we were like, well, how do we make it different? And I kind of flippantly said, I could draw the drivers next to the cars. And then they were like, yeah, that's what we want. I went, okay.
Think before you speak, kind of thing. But it's very, very cool.
And but funnily enough, there's not that many images of drivers like standing quite rigid next to their cars. No. Yeah, there's lots of them like fist pumping in the air, getting out of the car. There's not a lot of them like just as a driver.
Did they have to? Did they have to model for you then?
Well, luckily they do some. So they do some press shots, like I guess either at Thruxton or around that time when the drivers have got their suits on and whatever. Yeah. But even then, like some of the stuff changed mid-season. So Ash's helmet had changed colour. Turks was his press shot stuff. His overalls were black, but he wears white.
White, yeah.
So even after like doing it, try to get it all right, and then you go, oh, got to change that.
I'll change that. Yeah.
So it was a really cool project, and I'd love to do more. But it's also like, sometimes it's kind of like special to do those ones. And,
I know what you mean. If you end up doing it every year, I mean, it becomes expected then as much as the fans would love it. Yeah. I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know. I think if we end up doing it next year, I'd have a different idea of what I'd like to do. Yeah, like because you don't want to produce the same thing and just be like, it's that again. Yeah, you want to be like, all right, what's the idea? What do we want to change? But I don't draw horses, and I don't draw. I generally don't draw pets. So as long as it sticks to cars and drivers, I'll be all right.
And that's cool. There's always going to be a big call for that, I think. Because do you get a lot of people who want sort of them as a gift for someone, and they ask you to do like old cars they used to have, things that great mementos like that. Aren't they?
Literally, and a lot of that is now for Christmas. So
there you go.
So I'm literally working through. my orders now, like the orders that I've taken at events now, are due for Christmas. So I've got 10 weeks in order time.
Yeah.
Generally, so and that, sometimes it's getting the balance, because I've got paintings to get done, which take 10 to 15 hours each. But then that could be 10 to 50. If each drawing takes an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So you kind of go, well, the painting's priority, but the drawing, I could get 10 drawings done. Well, let's say on a good day I can get 6 to 7.
Okay.
So you kind of go, well, do you want to get the painting done, or do you want to get the drawings done? So it's just getting the balance between two. Because they both take time, they both take different. We've got to go through suppliers to get different things done. So, at the moment it's just early mornings and just trying to get through the orders, which is no bad. No bad thing. It's randomly this today. Tingram, Tom Ingram, he lives in Coventry, so
okay,
and he goes to my bar, like we go to the same barbers. His barber is one of my best mates. But randomly, my barber doesn't know Tom for being touring car driver.
That's
and Tom doesn't go in going, oh, hi, I'm Tom Ingram.
No.
So I was in the shoes today, and then Tom arrives at the door going, all right, mate. Hello, mate. How you doing? So it's just and that's what I do really like about the touring car is that it's such a friendly paddock. And all the drivers are approachable, and they'll chat, and they'll and also they'll bring their parents along, and that's the same across the junior championship as well. I've done some commissions for some of the Ginetta lot,
cool.
Some of the other lots who are going through the ranks, and that's where a lot of the drivers have come up through is Clio Cup and Ginetta and all that. So no, it's really nice to be part of that motorsports family.
Almost part of the furniture by now, I would imagine.
Well, I guess I don't kind of blend in, do I?
No, and that's the great thing. And that's before I start to wrap it up. The final question I want to ask you about, just out of personal interest, really, is the car that is your mobile studio. That you take around. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So just tell us a bit about that. How did that start? And I'm guessing, is it that you add more to it? Is it a wrap? I know the inside is like signed by everyone. What's the plan for that long term?
So I've had that car since new. So basically, Chevrolet were part of the touring car. So Chevy were run by RML Group, and I was on the press launch for the Chevrolet Spark. So I painted the Chevrolet Spark at RML when they were busily preparing the cruises, the Chevrolet cruises, which obviously were British touring car champions, world touring car champions. That team and those cars were so dominant, particularly with various drivers. You had Menu in the world touring car, Plato was behind the wheel, Rob Huff as well. So those cars were proper. When they're talking about eras, I think that 09, 10, 11 era. I think there was I think we still every kind of gushy looks back at the Super Tourers as but actually I think we've seen some really impressive bits of engine, cars that have been engineered as race cars, by Dynamics or RML or whoever. They are expensive pieces of machinery. Anyways, I digress. So the Chevrolet Spark, I was on the press launch for. I then said to Chevy, "Oh, you should put me in it." So I then had one of the first press cars is the one I drive. So there's only 10 on 59 reg plate. Mine's one of the 10.
Okay, cool.
It was a 2010 car, but mine's a pre-reg because they had to get it in the country. So we then race finaled it up to make it look like the Chevy Cruise. I'll use that term really loosely. Really. Then the car was devinyled. It then was wrapped properly. So that's when the wrap started. And I then got into press cars. So I from 2013 till 17, I'd say. I was in a press car, so the car literally just kind of was parked up, wasn't really used.
Okay.
Because Chevy then left the UK. So that press car was owned by Chevy.
Yeah.
But I drove it.
Right.
And then at one point, somebody from Vauxhall rang me up and went, yeah, that car. And I said, well, actually, it hasn't got a gearbox because the gearbox went at 30,000 miles. And they went, oh, right. And I said, they're like, okay, well, how about you fix the gearbox and you keep it?
Oh, feathers.
I went, all right. So I kept them, yeah. So, and then fast forward to 20, kind of end of lockdown 1. And I was like, right, if I'm going to do these drawings, I want to be able to do them quickly and mobile. So set up that I arrive at an event and I'm ready to go pretty much. Yeah, when I'm doing the painting setup, it takes 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours easy to set up. So I was like, right, I want a really simple setup in the car, studio, I'll draw in the car, people can commission. So I took that to Bicester. So basically, a friend of mine who designs cars, I put it on Instagram saying, I want to turn this into a mobile studio. I need to work out how to do it. And he went, yeah, bring it to us. And I went, okay. I said, but I need it back for Thursday to go down to Bicester. So you've got 3 days to create a studio. Yeah. And at that point, they weren't too busy because of COVID and OEMs not go through with designs and stuff. So I took it on the Monday. I helped. I sat there, worked out the height of the table. Right. And by the Thursday, we've got a basic studio built in the back of the car. And then I took it to a T5 camper converter company because they weren't very busy either. Right. So he put the leisure, so the Yuasa leisure battery sits in there, converted put the lights in. Yeah. And then over the last 2 years, it's just design tweaks. Just like I go, right, well, what else do I need in it? So it's got a solar panel on the roof as well. There's bits that I keep on going, oh, well, actually, I could do that, and I could change that. And the car itself has now become known for what it is.
It's a work of art of its own, I would say, really. And it's fantastic.
And then the first event, I went to an event and called the London Motor Show, and Frank Stephenson, who designed the Mini, was there. Right. And Frank, I was like, oh, he's a legend. He designed he was part of the design team of the Mini, the McLaren P1, car design legend. Yeah. So I got to just do the visor. Right. And then I went to another. I was like, oh, actually, I'd quite like them to sign it and whatever. And I was like, oh, actually, I quite like the people who I've done their cars of. Bear in mind, there's now 1,460 drawings. Wow. I was like, the people whose cars I've done can sign the car. Yeah. Along with drivers and whatever. So we now got Roman Grosjean signed it, Richard Rawlins has signed it, various, obviously touring, guys and girls in the touring car grid, and just so it's just become this thing that people at shows go, oh, that's the car that's signed by people, and the headliner's literally covered in loads of things.
It's great. I didn't notice that at the time when I saw it in person, but it's obviously seeing your social sense and seeing that Tom Ingram added to it today. Are you ever going to part with that now?
I think I can. No. It's just I've had people go, oh, what's next? I was like, what do we next? You go through an MOT and it seems just to
keep going through.
Yeah, and it's there's so many stickers on it. There's over I know there's over 700 stickers alone on there. Then you've got everything else. So I just you could do with being a little bit bigger maybe. And the thing is, I can't take a passenger with me because there's no passenger seat. Okay. So I don't know. A lot of people think it's towed to events. They think it's. I
wasn't sure, but that's even better.
It is driven. So it's it's at some we'll have to see. Either I might have to, because I obviously I've got the van as well, so I could hitch it onto the back of the van and tow it with the van.
Okay.
So at least if I need somebody with me, then it's possible, and I think that would look pretty like the van towing the car in a kind of convoy would look pretty cool. So
no, that's amazing. Listen, Ian, I could probably carry on for another hour if I'm honest, but I know your time's precious as well. I've just got one final question, which is probably pretty obvious, and I don't know. Forgive me if you can't answer it. Out of everything that you've done, is there one piece? If someone had to say to you, what is the most priceless piece of work that you've created? What would you say?
It's really difficult because there's loads of stuff that I've really enjoyed doing. There's lots of personal stuff that, like emotional stuff that I've done. Whether it's, when I did the Le Mans stuff, and I did a piece. A friend of mine passed away, and that piece was auctioned and raised £16,000 for charity.
Wow.
Did the piece with Jensen Button out in Abu Dhabi. I think it's best to always. It's a bit of a cop out, but I always say my next artwork, like my next thing, is always.
I like that.
Because it's great to look back. Like, don't get me wrong, like it's great to look back and go, I've done that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more I want to do, a lot more I want to achieve, a lot of things I feel that I can do better at, and that's where my goal is to go, right, well, how do I make PopBangColour bigger, better, brighter? How do I make it more, so, at the same time,
to the next level. Yeah.
It's been super cool to do,
That's cool.
What I have, so.
That's brilliant. No, I love that answer. Well done, mate. That's cool. Listen, before I let you go, if people are watching this, obviously you're all over the socials. You're very easy to find. PopBangColour on all of your social accounts.
Instagram, Facebook, bit of TikTok. Dabble with TikTok. I don't really understand
I don't get it yet. I'm on there.
Dabble. It's like trying to learn French. I'm like, obviously Facebook page and Twitter. For the older folk who like to write some rant some words in a certain amount of characters.
Again, on there, never really got it. I don't use it to its most effectiveness, I would imagine. But there we go. If people want to get in touch, to obviously talk to you about getting some artwork done, how do they do that?
We'll just via the socials. Just drop a message. Obviously, you can email through the website as well. But if you do want stuff for Christmas, just do it quick because otherwise, I'm going to be roaring like, it'll be like,
and then you've got to let people down. But hey, if it's that kind of year, isn't it? You've got to doing what you do. I'm seeing them all crop up now. We hate to use the C word, but Christmas is not far away when you're someone who does what you do.
Surprised how many people go hiya on the 18th. On the 18th of December. You're like,
I forgot my wife's present.
Yeah. Oh, I saw you at. Can I have? Yes, you and the other 100 who've just ordered.
Exactly. Right. There you go, Ian. Thank you so much for your time, mate. This has been fantastic. Thank you for giving us, taking us through your journey. All the best with everything that you've got yet to come. I would ask, are you working on anything specific at the moment that you can tell us about?
So I've got a lorry launch, a Scania truck launch. The week after next. Got some events. I'm not down at Brands. I'm other committed elsewhere for events this weekend. But and it's just orders. Yeah, it's literally just rattling through all the orders from various events to make sure people are happy.
There you go. Cool. One final question. Have to ask you: who's your pick for this weekend? Do you have one? Who's going to win?
I really get on with all. I think I'd really like it. Personally, I'd go either Tom, obviously, because he's home. He's always been a really nice. Always got on with Tom really well. But I think Jake is also a top lad. Like you always see him and his dad. At the event. So if there was two to choose, I'd go Jake or Tom.
Cool. So we're in for a fight, hopefully. You know, it'd be. I'm really looking forward just for the fact that it's so close. But it would be nice to see one of the new guys up there. You know, somebody new getting that. But I think
like Colin, Colin's a lovely guy.
I'm not here to create tension for anyone. Don't worry about it.
and all of them deserve it in different ways. How about
there you go. There you go. Well, we're in for a good weekend. Anyway, Ian, thank you so much again, mate. All the best. And I hope to speak to you soon. Cheers, mate. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram to keep updated about all future shows.